You asked for it, so here it is. The unfair battle between the 2020 13-inch MacBook Pro M1 and the Asus Zephyrus G14. But the question is, which laptop is it unfair to? Take a guess in the comments below before we get into this video. I've run each of these laptops through 14 plus creator-focused benchmarks covering video editing in Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, motion design, graphic design, photo editing, and more.
Let's get rocking!
If you're new to the channel, my name is Benji Kaiser. This is where you're going to find the best tech and tools for creative professionals. So if that sounds like your kind of place, consider subscribing. Also, if you're curious about the exact availability or pricing of either of these models as we're heading through the video, you can head down in the description below and click one of those links. Now, if you do use that link to make a purchase, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you, and that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Jumping right into the build quality, both laptops have very different appearances. First off, I am not surprised to see the MacBook Pro M1 with its continued aluminum finish and silver Apple logo. Although I must say, I sure do miss the glowing Apple logo. I'm guessing they removed that to make the laptop slightly thinner and lighter. Not sure though. The Asus Zephyrus G14, on the other hand, totes a matte white LED infused top cover. Both look great, but I must say the Asus Zephyrus is quite a bit fancier, while the MacBook Pro tackles the more, well, professional look. Both have solid build quality, but the MacBook Pro stands out to be built better overall, as they have become known for over the past 25 years. Regarding the build construction, the Zephyrus G14 has an aluminum top cover, bottom cover, and keyboard deck, whereas the MacBook Pro M1 has a complete aluminum build, excluding the hinge and the keys on the keyboard deck. So as far as tough is concerned, the MacBook Pro 13 is the tougher of the two. Regarding the ports on each of these laptops, I always encourage people to think about their own use cases. The latest and greatest ports are great, but if they don't serve your needs, then it really doesn't make sense to have them, especially thinking about like removing all of your ports except for like Thunderbolt ports. But I digress. So observe the ports shown here and choose wisely. As I open the lid on each of these laptops, I'm able to do so with one hand. The hinges are smooth and strong. There is only a slight bit of screen flex on the Zephyrus G14, while the MacBook Pro M1 has none due to its singular long hinge spanning the entire bottom bezel of the screen. Both are solid and sturdy, but once again, Apple takes the prize for build and sturdiness. What about the ventilation on each of these laptops? The Zephyrus G14 has generous vents for cooling the laptop. It has vents on the bottom cover, behind the keyboard deck, on the side panels. This is very different from the MacBook Pro, which only has one vent behind the keyboard deck. So the question begs, which one runs cooler and quieter? At idle, the MacBook Pro M1 did not kick on the fan, whereas the G14 gets pretty loud for doing, well, nothing, and reaches 43 decibels and remains there for the most part while doing some light web browsing. The MacBook Pro M1 again has no fan noise during web browsing. During the 4K video editing export in Premiere Pro, the MacBook One is inaudible and still has no fan kick on, whereas the Asus Zephyrus G14 gets loud at around 60 decibels. Once again, during the DaVinci Resolve export, the fans on the MacBook Pro M1 did not kick on, while the G14 was at 59 decibels. Now, if you want to learn more about why the MacBook Pro M1 chip is so good and why, we're seeing it be able to run so, efficiently and cool, I have a full video talking about why the MacBook Pro is so good. So you can click that up in the YouTube cards above if you're curious about that once this video is finished. Now for the Photoshop benchmark test, the MacBook Pro M1 has 0 decibels. Again, no fan noise, where the G14 had 61. Okay, so now to check how well the fans did cooling the components during those different tests. Here are the benchmark results. So far, it seems that the MacBook Pro is winning on all fronts. The build quality is off the charts, and it runs cool and quiet in some of the critical creator apps. Now, before you go frolicking down the yellow brick road and pick up a new MacBook Pro M1, yellow brick road, ha, yellow. You need to stick around for the performance benchmarks Here you will see exactly where the MacBook Pro M1 thrives and where the Zephyrus G14 wins out. But before we get into that, a few more details I want to cover, including the screen quality. The 2020 MacBook Pro M1 comes with a 13.3-inch Retina display that can reach 303 nits at full brightness. The M1 pulls off a solid color accuracy, snagging a color gamut range of 100% sRGB, 89% Adobe RGB, and 100% DCI-P3. The Asus Zephyrus G14 comes with a 14-inch Full HD display that can reach 330 nits at full brightness with a Pantone validated color gamut range of 96% sRGB, 75% Adobe RGB, and 76% DCI-P3, all at an average Delta E of 1.27, whereas the MacBook Pro, I believe, is 1.18 for the Delta E. Once again, the winner is the MacBook Pro. The keyboard on the Zephyrus G14 is good. It has a nice, firm, snappy key press and a suitable layout. I enjoy the layout a lot. There are not a lot of extra keys that I personally tend to get in my way, which I like. You know, something like the numpad. Doesn't have those. Good move. I will point out that there are substantial light leaks on the sides of the keys, inconsistent backlighting showing through the keys, and in the dark, this silver gray contrast is a little tough to see when typing. As I turn my focus towards the MacBook Pro M1, it is easy to pick a clear winner between these two keyboards. The MacBook Pro M1 comes with a soft touch matte finish on the keys that feels very nice beneath my fingers. The backlighting on the keys is excellent, and the firm, snappy, quiet key press is most agreeable. I'm so glad that Apple went back to this scissor switch keyboard after the debacle of the butterfly keyboard. Both the Asus Zephyrus G14 and the MacBook Pro M1 come with all-in-one trackpads with a click built in. The Zephyrus G14 has a manual click, whereas the M1 totes Apple's vibration click. So basically the trackpad isn't manually activated by clicking a mechanism down. Rather, the amount of force that is applied to the trackpad causes this vibration that feels like a click. And I've noticed that this causes occasional errors when dragging and dropping items or conducting video edits, but Apple has really fine-tuned this. So overall, I would say it's a good trackpad and I like it a lot. Though there are some of those little annoyances when you're trying to drag and drop and you pull up a little pressure and it doesn't know if you still held it, and the developments in technology. I think the term is bleeding edge instead of cutting edge. All right, so you can understand how loud each one is or how quiet each one is. Here's an audio sample of me using both the keyboard decks and trackpads so you know what to expect. If you're needing a laptop to attend virtual meetings, then you're going to want to select the MacBook Pro M1, as it is the only one with a 720p webcam in this head-to-head battle. Concerning the on-the-go capability of these two laptops, the Asus Zephyrus G14 weighs in at 3.53 pounds at a thickness of 0.7 inches thick, whereas the MacBook Pro weighs in at 3 pounds at a thickness of 0.61 inches thick. Concerning battery life, the Asus Zephyrus G14 will get roughly 9.5 hours of web browsing battery life and about 6 to 7 of design and video editing battery life out of its 76 watt-hour battery, whereas the MacBook Pro M1 will get roughly 14 to 15 hours of battery life during web browsing, maybe 8 to 9 hours during design and video editing, depending on how hard you're pushing this laptop. If you're doing a lot of video editing in Premiere Pro, you could see that battery life sag down to maybe about 6 hours, but that's still very excellent for these intense workflow tasks, and that's a 58.2 watt-hour battery. If you're enjoying this video and getting some value, ever so gently, just gently press that like button and let me know how you plan on using this laptop by dropping a comment below. If you want more content like this in the future, then make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of the future uploads. On to the main event, the performance benchmarking test between the Asus Zephyrus G14 and the 2020 MacBook Pro M1. The Asus Zephyrus G14 I'm reviewing comes with a AMD Ryzen 9 4900HS with 8 cores and 16 threads. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 Max-Q, 16 gigs of RAM, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage, whereas the MacBook Pro M1 comes with the Apple M1 8 cores and 8 threads, 8 cores of GPU, 16-core neural engine, 8 gigs of RAM, and 512 gig SSD. Kicking things off, we are going to jump into the simulated benchmark tools to check out how each of these laptops handle Cinebench and Geekbench. Both laptops have 8 cores, but the Zephyrus G14 has 16 threads, where the MacBook Pro M1 does not. It comes with 8 cores and 8 threads, no hyper-threading. Cinebench R23 and Geekbench indicate that the M1 is a highly efficient processor with good IPC that loses to AMD on the basis of clock rate. IPC stands for instructions per cycle. To give a very brief explanation, IPC is the number of instructions a CPU executes per cycle. So if you have two processors with the same gigahertz capabilities, but one can execute more instructions per cycle, then it would make it faster. This is what we are seeing with the new M1 chip. However, when it comes to multi-core performance, due to the lack of threads, you can see that the Zephyrus G14 is beating out the M1, but honestly not by much. So basically, if the MacBook Pro M1 is a more efficient processor and it can complete more executions per clock cycle, then though there's more cores and more threads in the 4900H, the M1 will be a faster single-core performance chip. So I hope that makes sense. If not, comment below and we'll help talk you through that. Getting out of this simulated test and onto the real world apps, let's take a look to see how well these laptops will perform in Adobe's design suite by benchmarking them with the Puget Systems Photoshop benchmark. Both laptops perform well, but the G14 pulls ahead. The Zephyrus G14 scored a 688, while the MacBook Pro M1 was beat out by over 100 points and scored a 565. Many people have their own thoughts on this. Let me know why you think we are seeing better performance out of the Zephyrus over the Pro M1 when we saw overwhelming results in the simulated test. Looking forward to your answers in the comments below. I'm super curious what y'all think about this situation. Moving on to motion design, I'm using the Puget Systems After Effects benchmark. Per the charts, you can see that the Zephyrus G14 pulled slightly ahead of the MacBook Pro M1. The Zephyrus G14 scoring a 775 over the MacBook Pro M1's 641. Please note that the MacBook Pro M1 After Effects results came from a friend with the 16 gig model. I was unable to run the Puget test on the 8 gig model. It just didn't have enough RAM to run that test fully through. So I reached out to a friend and he helped me run that test. Now on to my favorite benchmark test, video editing. First, I'm going to start with a playback test. For this test, I'm going to take a 9-minute 4K clip, adding some motion graphics, and then play it back in the timeline at full quality. This full clip contains 16,177 frames in total, with 7,240 of those frames being motion graphics. The Asus Zephyrus G14 can play full quality 4K footage in Premiere Pro timeline with only 3 dropped frames, which is fantastic. During this test, the MacBook Pro M1 saw drop frame rates as follows. At full quality, 5,481. At half quality, 375, and at fourth quality, 0 drop frames. Considering that I was only running Premiere Pro during these tests, you may see slightly higher drop frame rates as you start multitasking, but you can easily switch to half or fourth quality to continue to get smooth playback in the timeline. Now, concerning the rendering of motion design effects, I was able to render out the 7,240 frames in just 3 minutes and 6 seconds using the Zephyrus G14, and only a bit slower at 7 minutes and 43 seconds for the MacBook Pro M1. Now, moving on to the 4K export test, I'm going to take a 9-minute 4K clip, place it into Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve, then export both out at 1080p and 4K YouTube settings. The G14 4K to 4K out of Premiere Pro took 3 minutes and 2 seconds, and the Premiere Pro 4K to 4K with the MacBook Pro M1 took 5 minutes and 51 seconds. Now, for the Premiere Pro 4K to 1080p export, the G14 took 2 minutes and 43 seconds, and the MacBook Pro M1 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, the DaVinci Resolve 4K to 4K export, remember this is the free version of DaVinci Resolve. The G14 took 7 minutes and 55 seconds, and the M1 took 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Again, the free version of DaVinci Resolve 4K to 1080p export from the G14, 4 minutes and 23 seconds, and from the M1, 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Now, regarding the thermal performance during the 4K edit, you can see that the Zephyrus G14 is running at about 87 degrees Celsius during the stabilized temps, and the MacBook Pro is running way cooler at 66 degrees Celsius. Let's talk about my recommendations for each one of these laptops. If you're a hardcore 4K and 6K video editor, then without a doubt, I would steer you towards the Asus Zephyrus G14. The new MacBook Pro M1 simply does not have the power and ability that the G14 has. However, it is noisy, does not have the best keyboard lighting, and does not come with that Apple thin and light chassis with that very extended battery life, though it still does have a good battery life. But without a doubt, in real-world applications, it is currently faster and still the go-to laptop in my choice for those higher performant tasks. If you are someone that occasionally conducts 4K video edits, but mainly finds themselves developing, designing, editing photos, or conducting digital art, then the MacBook Pro M1 will be perfect. It can handle what you throw at it, and it has great color accurate display. Oh, plus you can be on the go longer with that 15-ish hours of battery life. Now, if you're curious about the availability and exact pricing of either of these models, you can head down in the description below. and click one of those links. Now, if you do make a purchase of that link, of course, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you, and that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. If you want more videos about the Asus Zephyrus G14 or the MacBook Pro M1, you can click or tap the screen over here. Otherwise, keep editing, keep designing, keep creating. I'm Benji Kaiser, and I'll see you here in the next video.